Hi, I'm Eric Gadby, and I have been an enthusiast for all things nautical and aerospace since the age of 10. I served for 22 years in the U.S. Submarine Force and have been supporting it for the last 15 years since retiring. Join me as I pursue my passion for first-person context for ships, aircraft, and historic sites that have shaped our world, as well as some that are off the beaten path. Welcome to the Tillamook Air Museum in Tillamook, Oregon, home of the B-52G Osiris. Let's take a look at this amazing aircraft. Okay, I'm sitting in the pilot's seat. The control yokes for pilot, co-pilot, throttles, all 8 engines can be controlled in one hand, and have numbers 4 and 5 or extended out further. These are the 2 most inboard engines on each wing. These would have been used to fine-tune thrust or speed for doing aerial refueling whenever you needed to, very small increments to adjust airspeed. Speed brakes, and the standard analog gauges for the time, engine pressure ratio, RPM, temperature, fuel flow, and then we have up here the fuel cutoff in case of fire. You pull these and it will shut off fuel to the engine. Okay, the front of the aircraft had blisters on it that had sensors for low-level light camera and infrared camera. Those could be displayed here for flying in zero light conditions. Then we have the standard flight instruments: altitude, speed, climb, radar altitude, speed air, the Mach indicator. Okay, then beside the pilot, we have the hydraulic controls, the hydraulic plant. Controls for the IFF and for interior communications as well as exterior communications. Pylon jettison to drop the pylons from off the wings. Water injection for the 8 engines. They used wet thrust for takeoff. That allowed for adding approximately 2,500 pounds of thrust more for each engine. So total between the 8, you would end up with 20,000 pounds of extra thrust. They were only limited by the amount of distilled water they could carry. And in the G model, they added additional tankage for that to give them an additional, I believe it was 30 seconds to for thrust for takeoff. So that improved takeoff performance and weight. Light controls for the cabin, light instruments, then breakers for the different control systems. Okay, I'm going to hand you back over to Bob here. He's going to tell you on his side. Yep, that's the controls for the generators. You see there the amperage for each of those, as well as circuit breakers.
So we have some light controls for the cabin in here.
Yep, and engine start controls to the right.
And generator and firewall fuel shutoffs. And oxygen regulators.
Okay, now to the center console. For crosswind landings, the ability to crab the landing gear to offset for winds, because they're very narrow aircraft, and all 4 wheels steered, so you could actually adjust the wheel angle. And flap controls. cockpit moving aft to equipment bays, electrical distribution switches, a swing seat for a extra, crew member or instructor pilot, more switches, switch breakers. And have toilet for long duration missions. We have the aft, the upper level. We have the gunner station as well as the electronic warfare officer station. Those equipages were removed. They're classified. And two last things to look at. Have an optical sextant to take bearings on the stars for navigation. There was a time before GPS. And this is where, coming down from the refueling connection up on the top of the aircraft, that it comes in, down, rotates, and then down into the distribution network for the aircraft. Okay, I'm sitting in the aft port upper level on the B-52. This is the gunner position. They moved it from a tail-operated gunner to a remote-operated radar gun from here. The gunner would be able to use the radar that is in the tail-mounted to select the target, then to train on, and then to effect fire on the little radar screen here, as well as in adjustments for it. There are gauges here for ammunition, number of rounds, number of bursts remaining, lighting for it, empty and out selections, a additional electronic countermeasure system here. Then we have the oxygen controls here. Now the station that Bob is seated in that has pretty much everything removed from it was the electronic warfare or the electronic countermeasure station. So everything that was in it would have been a classified bit for both offensive and defensive electronic warfare to detect, and then to be able to, detect incoming threats, radars, missiles, that kind, as well as to actually do offensive or jamming of those targets. So, but anyways, these are ejection seats. They eject up and out through this hatch right here. There's one right above Bob as well. And okay, that is the gunner station and defensive system or weapons or electronic systems operator stations.
You were brave to push the ejection seat button.
Okay, this is lower level. This is aft, coming in from the electronics bay and where the forward landing gear would be. Stepping inside, coming forward, have electronics bays here, coming up to the two ejection seats that are for the bomber and for the navigator. And we have Navigator Bob here.
We're on target.
Okay, can you tell me anything about what you...
Oh, we got a keyboard here for, looks like for communications. We got some calibrations, some map selects for this monitor. You can change between the radar and the beacon transmitter, or I don't know if that's beacon, but, and you can, yeah. Then we have, again, the oxygen PSI, same as above, so there's some repeated controls in here.
Okay, one interesting thing about for nuclear release, it required these two to be done. They are, forward special weapon manual release, aft special, rear special weapon release. And here with my minion Bob. If you hand that off to Bob here. So, sitting in the ejection seat, what's unique about the ones on the lower level is that they eject downwards. So that is, you have to obviously have a minimum altitude to be able to effect that safely. Has control systems for the weapons release system. Obviously it interfaces via keyboard, trackball, monitors here that control radars and camera systems, as well as visual bomb sight type stuff to allow for all-weather release of the weapons. You have primarily controls for radars, frequency, bomb spotting, the actual setting of the bombs for the altitude to redetonate at, cameras for the physical sighting, like old school bomb sight doing, and then early warning receivers, Doppler controls, more communications and radar transmitter functions. Then you have the main screens. Then you have weapons control for each of the pylons. Be able to select which station, then to actual manual launch of them or auto launch. And since it could carry a rotary launcher, has provisions to actually rotate the launcher in succession. And breakers and switches, overhead dimmer controls, and then the second bomber Navigator has duplicate controls on their side. Okay, anything step out or speak out to you, Bob?
Well, underneath here, there's definitely some platforms to keep you on the ejection platform, but it looks like you might have to sit in the stirrups when you fire from here. So that's pretty interesting that the ejection system goes down and the tables are so high. But this parachute here will go here. Otherwise, you're kind of crumpled forward, but the parachute and then this thing comes back to semi-normal. So yeah, pretty good.
Okay, and once again, the actual for nuclear release, there were special weapon release provisions for it here. You'll see it written special weapon forward, special weapon aft release, and for here, I'm not sure what this is. Thanks for watching, and for all of the views, likes, and especially for returning subscribers. I appreciate all of your comments, especially whenever someone has a personal connection with the aircraft. Keep them coming. A special thanks to the Tillamook Air Museum for allowing us to film there, and to Rita Welch and Christian Gerling and the rest of the museum staff for their support and for keeping this piece of history maintained for future generations of aviation enthusiasts.